Welcome into Texans Today. I'm your host, JEremy Chuggs, and had some breaking news over this past weekend that really had me thinking just a little bit. The Texans went ahead and restructured another contract in offensive lineman Tytus Howard, clearing up about $10.3 million in cap space for the Texans to use this offseason. This coming on the heels of them restructuring Shaq Mason's contract, which saved them $6.4 million against the cap for this season. So now the Texans are sitting pretty. They have around $32 million in cap space to play with. What will the Texans do with that $32 million cap space? Could they make another move before the NFL draft? Could they make a trade before the NFL draft? I'll tell you 5 big moves that the Houston Texans could make with all that cap space that they just cleared up. And I want you to be here with me for a second, because we all know people inside the Texans organization, Texans players, Texans fans, they all watch these videos. So let your voice be heard. If you want the Texans to make another big move this offseason, go down and hit that like button right now. Nick Caserio, DeMeco Ryans, I hope you're watching, because Texans fans want to go all in this offseason. We want to make a run for the Super Bowl. If you're with me and want the Texans to make the most of their cap space, go down and hit that like button. The first move that came to mind, trade for Tee Higgins, wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, he's a wide receiver 1A, and I know what you're saying. The Texans already have Nico Collins. They already have Tank Dell. But adding a guy like this, we look at his stats over the past 4 seasons, he's incredible. I mean, over 1,000 yards the past 2 seasons. This year, only 12 games played. Still had over 650 yards, 5 touchdowns on the season. And earlier this month, Tee Higgins requested a trade after getting franchise tagged by the Bengals, which is going to pay him $21.8 million. And the problem is with a lot of these teams is, you know, he's already getting paid $21.8 million this year. Obviously, he wants a multi-year deal, but he also wants to get paid like one of the top wide receivers in the NFL. We look at the top 10 right now. Tyreek Hill sitting at $30 million. Devontae Adams at $28 million. Cooper Kupp, $26.7 million. A.J. Brown at 25 and DK at 24. I'd like to think that Tee Higgins, if he is traded to a team, would want to be paid more than a Stephon Diggs and DK Metcalf, maybe around that A.J. Brown and Cooper Kupp number. So the cost for Tee Higgins would likely be around a second-round pick and a late-round pick, plus you have to pay him like a top 5 receiver, which means $25 million a year or more. Well, the Texans, they have that cap space. They can do that if they want to trade for Tee Higgins and pay him. But should they? Let me know down in the comment section what you think. Would you pay Tee Higgins more than $25 million a year? That's what it's likely going to cost for the current Bengals wide receiver. Let me know yes or no down in the comment section. This is the pinned comment on today's video. So you get an ad break on YouTube. Perfect timing. Go down and let your voice be heard. Would you pay Tee Higgins more than $25 million a year? Next up, it's Derrick Brown, defensive tackle for the Carolina Panthers. And if you missed it this past week, I had a trade idea that maybe wasn't the most favorable for the Carolina Panthers. This was my first trade idea, and I'll admit it was a Texans-centric trade idea. It wasn't me thinking, oh, this is the best for both teams. I was thinking, what could the Texans get away with paying the Carolina Panthers because they are such a crap organization? So this was my trade offer that I gave the Carolina Panthers, and all 20 Panthers fans online came after me. They were all pissed off. All 25 of them, they were really upset with me. And I'll take some of the blame because Derrick Brown, he is a good defensive tackle. He recently broke the record for most tackles by a defensive tackle in a season with 103. But the thing that I want to really highlight with Derrick Brown, I mean, obviously had a pretty good year this past season, 103 tackles, breaking that record for a defensive tackle, 7 tackles for loss, 2 sacks on the year. But the thing with Derrick Brown is when you look at his stats and compare it to other players, I don't know if he'll get paid like those other players. I mean, granted, he had the best year this past season, and he's on the last year of a rookie deal, a former first-round pick, and if you traded for him, you still have to pay him after a trade. But what would you pay Derrick Brown? I saw Panthers fans, all 20 of them in my comment section, saying he's going to make $35 million a year. Derrick Brown is he's a top 5 defensive tackle. So if they were to go along with that logic, the highest paid defensive tackles going into this next season per year, they said 30 to 35 million. Chris Jones is making 31.75 mil. And the thing about the top 5 guys is we saw earlier Derrick Brown, he had 2 sacks this past year? Chris Jones, 10.5 sacks. Christian Wilkins, 9 sacks. Justin Madubuike, 13 sacks. Quinnen Williams, he had 5.5 sacks this year, 12 sacks in 2022, 5.5 sacks for Jeffrey Simmons, but that was in 12 games, and he had 7.5 this past year. Even with Derrick Brown breaking the tackle record for defensive tackles, he was still not even in the top 50 for tackles in the NFL. Yes, it was an impressive year for Derrick Brown, but don't act like he's a top 5 defensive tackle this year right now. I don't know if, yes, he's young, yes, he's very promising, but will he get $35 million a year? You're crazy if you think that's the case. This is my second trade idea, which I'm making it more of a fair trade idea in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. You tell me down in the comment section who wins this trade. The Texans get Derrick Brown, defensive tackle. We're going to send the Panthers our 4th round pick, number 127, a conditional 2025, either 3rd or 4th round pick based on whether or not the Texans re-sign Derrick Brown, and John Metchie, the wide receiver, to link back up with Bryce Young, his former Alabama friend. So let me know, who wins this trade? Is it Houston or Carolina? Panthers fans, you can suck it. All right, my next idea for the Texans to use up all that cap space, it's Marshon Lattimore, cornerback for the New Orleans Saints. Now, Marshon, he's been involved in a lot of trade talk for the New Orleans Saints this offseason, which they were in cap hell, which we all know. Saints are always in cap hell, but they're currently $8.9 million above the cap line. They have $8.9 million in cap to spend, so not as bad as a lot of people think. The thing with Marshon Lattimore is going to be he's had injury issues the past 2 seasons, missing around 17 games in the past 2 years. The Saints also have 2 young corners in Paulson Adebo and Alontae Taylor, which they could want to roll with this next season, making Marshon kind of the odd man out, and they're going to be paying him a lot of money to be the odd man out. And the financials, and when you really look at it for the Houston Texans, this is what I want you to focus on. A trade pre-June 1st for the New Orleans Saints would save them $16.7 million against the cap and allow them more cap flexibility moving into this offseason past the NFL draft. But if they trade him post-June 1st, they only get $3.9 million in cap space. And Lattimore, he has no guaranteed money after 2024, so it could be a deal where you take on his cap this year, and then down the road, you don't have a lot to worry about. So could the Texans try to take on some more of that cap from Marshon Lattimore and offer less draft capital to the New Orleans Saints? Say, hey, we'll trade for him before June 1st. We'll take on that money. We have the money to spend on Marshon Lattimore, but we're only going to offer you maybe a 4th round pick, maybe a 6th round pick, maybe a slurry of late round picks to the New Orleans Saints. In favor, you get to save some of that cap space. I think that might be a fair trade-off for the Saints and the Texans. I don't know if the Saints are willing to trade Marshon Lattimore just yet, but if they're looking to save a little bit more money and make some more moves this offseason, then it could be a win-win for both teams. Now, coming up, I have 2 free agents that the Texans could spend all that money on that they saved from Shaq Mason and Tytus Howard coming up, but I couldn't do today's show if it wasn't for our sponsor, and that is Game Time. Game Time is last-second tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. I've been using Game Time for a while now, and it's my go-to ticketing app for sporting events, concerts, and comedy shows. This year alone, I've been able to see Shane Gillis, Dave Chappelle, Drake, Adele, and I plan on going to multiple Astros games this year, even if they've been asked to start the season. Don't miss out on a once-in-a-lifetime experience by using Game Time to get you the best deals on last-second tickets. Buy tickets in 2 seconds with 2 taps. Easy as that. Bam, bam. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts, it's the place to find last-minute seats. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, my first free agent that the Texans could be saving some money up for is safety Justin Simmons. He's been a very popular name around NFL circles, around NFL free agency rumors, and it's for good reasons, because he was amazing this past season. A second-team All-Pro for the third year in a row, 8 pass breakups, 3 interceptions this past season, a quarterback rating when targeted of 85.9, really good in 15 games for Justin Simmons, and he's been consistent. We look at the last 4 seasons, I'd already told you, he's had second-team All-Pro honors the past 3 years, racking up 6 interceptions last year in 12 games, 5 interceptions in 2021, 5 interceptions in 2020. He has no sign of slowing down. Even if he's on the wrong side of 30, Justin Simmons is still a really good option at safety. And no matter what anybody tells you, I still worry about the Texans safety room going into next season. Jimmy Ward was often injured last year, ended the year on IR. Jalen Petrie had a severe sophomore slump. Eric Murray, MJ Stewart, Lonnie Johnson Jr., they don't really bring a lot of confidence for me for the Texans safety depth chart. So my question to you is, what's your confidence level in Jalen Petrie and Jimmy Ward going into next season? They're your 2 starters as of right now, unless the Texans sign or draft another player. I don't see Eric Murray, MJ Stewart beating those guys out. Scale it 1 to 10. 1, no confidence. They are the worst safety tandem in the NFL. 10, you're wrong, Jeremy. They're going to be the best safety tandem in the NFL going into next year. Let me know your confidence level down in the comment section as we get into the last player the Texans could be saving up some money for, and maybe a surprise to some of you, offensive lineman Connor Williams. He plays center. He also plays guard. He's played tackle in the past, and I think the Texans could solidify this front unit and have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL if they were able to get Connor Williams. In 497 snaps, which Connor Williams did miss some games last year due to injury, he had an 86.5 overall PFF grade, only 1 sack allowed, 1 hit, 4 hurries, 7 penalties. Connor Williams did really well last season, and there's still a question mark on the interior of that Texans offensive line. You have Juice Scruggs, who played all of guard last season. You also have, Kenyon Green coming off of injury. You have Jarrett Patterson coming off of injury. What are they going to do at center? What are they going to do at guard? Are they going to move Juice Scruggs to center? Are they going to keep Jarrett Patterson, who he looked pretty good in his short stint at center last year for the Houston Texans? Could they possibly do one of those 2 options? Could they move Scruggs to guard? Do they move Kenyon Green back to guard and give him another chance, the former first-rounder out of Texas A&M? I'm not sure what they do, but I am sure that I'm unsure on this offensive line and how they're going to be able to pan out going into next season. So could the Texans add some more depth on that interior offensive line and try to keep C.J. Stroud upright for the 2024 season? That is why Connor Williams is a guy that I could see the Texans looking to sign to really bulk up that interior, even if he's not a starter, I think he would be a starter if he signed. But even if he's not, having that depth on the interior, we saw the amount of injuries along the offensive line last year. You need offensive line depth. So why not spend it and protect your most valuable asset in C.J. Stroud? Yeah! As always, follow me on Twitter at JEremy Chuggs. That's all I got for you today. And if you haven't already, go down and hit that sub button to the fastest growing Texans channel on YouTube, the #1 Panthers hate channel on YouTube, Texans Today. Go down and hit that sub button or go to youtube.com/TexansTV and join the family.